Well, howdy YouTube, Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. There's some big changes going on in Unky Joe's Playhouse. Well, outside of Unky Joe's Playhouse. I get, like anybody else, I get spring fever, and spring has definitely sprung in South Texas. So as you can see by the color of my arms and the back of my neck, which you can't see, which is bright red, I have been spending some time outside in the sun. I have put off a project I had meant to be doing months ago, but I waited for the weather to warm up and for financially for everything to come together to make this happen. I need to put a new porch on the side of my house, or as we call it down here in the South, a deck. So that's what you're going to see today. Now I've time-lapsed this and sped it up as much as I can. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk and give you kind of a blow-by-blow as to what we're doing throughout the video with a little music in the background. So for those of you that are into the tech videos, this may not be your cup of tea, but you know, if you like seeing stuff being built by an old guy and a younger guy, well then this is the video for you. So the key to any successful project as we work on our deck project is to get your work area organized. Now, first thing Jerry and I had to do was pull out the stairs that were there. We used to have a deck here years ago, but we redid all the siding and windows, and we tore down the old deck with plans to build a new one. So here we are removing the stairs. Now, I'm a real stickler for having the work area set up and tools organized, everything you're going to need. There's nothing I hate worse than having to run around and try to find tools to get a job done. Now, what you didn't see was we went ahead and attached a 2x6 ledger board to the house, and then we were trying to get a rough setup of where our post needed to be. The deck is going to be 6 foot by 10 foot. So 6 foot coming out from the house and 10 foot along the length of the house. So we're trying to find the location. Here we are measuring our corners to make sure we're square. That way we knew where the posts were going to go. Then we can mark the posts out and dig the post holes to put the posts into. The soil we have here is what they call Houston black clay, and it's muck, basically is what it is. It doesn't drain well. It retains a lot of water. It sticks to the bottom of your shoes and everything else it comes into contact with. So we had to dig down, but it makes for good holes to put posts into because you don't need concrete. Because once you fill these holes back in and put your poles in with the native soil, it holds like concrete, and you'll get good results. We put concrete, actually, what you didn't see is we put concrete blocks, this little piece of concrete right there that I keep walking by. You see a little smidgen. That'll end up going in the hole where the pole, the 4x4 post goes. And that just keeps it from sitting in the muck and settling. This deck is not going to have a lot of weight on it, so it's not going to settle much, if any. And you'll find that once you do it this way, the deck will be rock solid. Now here I am taking a break and letting Jerry dig, of course. But that breaker pole you see me using, that thing weighs about 25 pounds all by itself. And it has to weigh that much because, you know, you want to put it into the ground and break up the soil. And then Jerry comes back with a post hole digger to get the extraneous soil out. Now, so once we got our frame laid out and we start putting our posts in, the next thing you'll see is that we start putting the side joist in here. So I'm going to hush for a minute and let's just enjoy the video. Alright, so what you're seeing now is Jerry and I talking about how we're going to put the board across these two 4x4 posts and discussing the best way to do it. I had watched several deck building videos, and this is the way they recommended to do it. So what we're going to end up doing is setting the 4x4 posts up and then putting our 2x6 boards on the side just to put marks onto our 4x4 post, just for reference where they're going to go in the future. And we're using clamps we screw them into the ledger board on the house, and then we're using clamps to clamp them onto the 4x4, measuring our distance, measuring our corners, our diagonals, just to make sure we got everything right. And going back to breaking out those the dirt out of those holes, and that was the hardest part of this whole build, is digging those holes. As you see, we had a bright sunny day to do this. The problem is the sun in South Texas is pretty brutal, so Jerry and I both were pretty badly sunburned. Why we didn't think to put on sunblock is, well, because we're men, right? We're manly men. We don't need sunblock. We were toasty by the end of this day, and the sun is on this side of the house during afternoon, and it gets pretty intense. Even though the temperature wasn't bad, it was only in the 80s. The sun down here in South Texas is brutal, so we were pretty well stressed from the sun by the time we got done digging these holes. So here we are the next day, well, not the next day, but a few days later, and this day was cloudy. It was the day before we had some serious rain come through, and as you can see, we got the front beam on. We're measuring. This post we're putting in here is one of the handrail posts for the stairs that are going to go right there where Jerry's digging. And now we're starting to backfill the holes, and I'm just going around double checking measurements, and we've also determined we need to put a pole in the center of this 2x6, so that's what I was taking measurements for, and Jerry's going to hand me the breaker bar, and I'm going to start breaking up the hole for that other pole. Again, the hardest part of all this work was digging these holes, but they had to be dug, they had to be done. I didn't want to use deck blocks, I didn't want to sit it on top of the soil. I wanted them to go down into the soil. It helps the stability of the deck as well. If you use deck blocks, you have to put these diagonal braces on to keep the deck from going side to side. So we decided it was effort that was well spent. I let Jerry do most of the digging. I did the breaking up of the soil, but I did some digging as well. It's good exercise, right? So here we are, trying to make sure we got our center line right for our post, checking for plumb on both sides, and then what I would do is mark it with a pencil, hand Jerry the drill. We drill a couple of pilot holes, and then we put 3/8 by 4-inch lag bolts for treated wood, so they're hot galvanized. We put those in to hold the posts, and then we backfill. And we've done that with all the posts. They all have 3/8 by 4-inch lag screws in them. We also put the soil back in the hole a little bit at a time, and we compact it as we go. I get in there with a breaker bar as well to break up some of the soil. And the first couple of rains we have, those holes will sink in a little bit. We'll put a little more dirt on the top, but those posts are not going to go anywhere. And here I am checking for level. We did a slight pitch on this deck away from the house, so that if water does get on it, it flows away. Now here we are measuring for all the joists. We're measuring each cut we make on those joists, to allow for the crown of the wood and a little bit of waviness in the wood, but Measure twice, cut once, as they say, so that's what we're doing here. Now, originally I was going to put the deck together with screws, but I found out the reason you don't want to do that is the shear strength of a screw, especially on these joists, is not strong enough. That's why they build with nails, or in our case, with joist hangers. So what we will do is put a couple of screws in to hold these joists in place, and then we will come back and you'll see we start installing the joist hangers, and we have joist hangers on every joist. It's required by code, but out here we don't have inspections because we're out in the county, we're out in a rural area. But I still want to build this deck safely, and we're gonna, we'll be bringing equipment in and out of this deck, mom's wheelchair, groceries, that kind of thing. So I want to make sure this deck is built well and it's going to last me at least, 15, 20 years. So shortly here I am getting the joist hangers, and there are special nails you use with those joist hangers. I got a box of those as well. And now the tedious but fun task, I don't mind hammering, of putting all the joist hangers in and putting 4 nails in each joist hanger. And you can see Zira just enjoying the hell out of herself, rolling around on the ground, having a ball, taking a nap. She loves being out of that yard, out of that front yard, and hanging out with us while we're working. And as you can see, she's just laying down, going to sleep. So again, a tedious task of installing joist hangers, but it had to be done if you want a nice, sturdy, and safe deck. So Jerry and I take a brief respite, and the next thing I want to do is get those stairs on. So what we're doing is we're cutting what's called a cleat, and it's a piece of 2x6 that's going to attach and be lag bolted into the other 2x6, and then we just simply hang the stair stringer on top of that, and then lag screw into the sides. Now we only temporarily mounted these stairs just so we could get up and down on the porch, and they went in fairly easy. And then we'll come back later and put them at the proper height, put proper footers in for them so that they're nice and safe, and of course install the handrail. And now the really fun part, this is where you can start actually see results getting done on the deck, and that is the deck boards. Now I used 5/4 deck boards instead of true 2x6 by 10 footers, so they're a little bit thinner. They're also a little bit cheaper. They usually have a better, depending what grade you buy, they have a better appearance on the top, but they also tend to be a little wavy. As you can see, we're trying to pick the best first board to line up with the house. It's not going to leave. Now, some of the curvature you're seeing is from the lens of the outdoor security camera I have installed, but those boards are wavy, a little wavy, and they have to be persuaded into place. So we line it up and we look at the best, alignment for the board, and then we come back in with the breaker bar to hold it tight if we need to. That's what I'm using right there. Make sure it's up tight, and then put our screws in, and then go on to the next board. So Jerry did all the hard work inside of the joist, because I have a problem crawling underneath that deck, and you can see we're having to put quite a bit of pressure on those deck boards to get them to line up properly. But I don't want any gaps in this deck board. I actually don't want water to drain down between the deck boards. That's why we have a slight pitch on the deck, and rainwater should just run off of it instead of pooling off it. However, eventually we're going to have a carport on this side of the house, and this will all be covered from the elements, well, from the rain, I should say. And here I am actually climbing up onto the deck and putting some screws in. And let me tell you, as I've gotten older, I got dizzy real fast putting those deck boards in, so I left that to Jerry, and I decided just to be his helper and let him do most of the hard work. And this is the final section of the video. We're just getting about half of the deck boards in. Of course, my spouse is out here checking up on our work, making sure we're doing it properly. And we'll get about half the deck boards in today, and then the rest we will finish in another video. We'll also show you how I did the railing in that next video coming up. Well, there you go, YouTube. We hope you found the video amusing and entertaining, if nothing else, and maybe even a little bit informative, because I explained to you throughout the video the steps we were doing to make sure we were building this thing right. And keep in mind, I am no master carpenter by any means. My older brother certainly is a master carpenter. I've seen he has the patience of Job, and that's what it requires. You got to really slow down and take your time when you're doing a project of this size. Now, all told, I've probably spent about $500 on this 6x10 porch on the side of my house, and we're not done yet. We still have more railing to put up. We have skirting to put around the bottom. That's all going to cost money. We still have to put the rails in the ground for the stairs, that kind of thing. But I'll save that for another video. This just gives you an idea of how far we've gotten so far and why you haven't seen a lot of me on YouTube here lately. Now, keep in mind, we have some more home improvement or Unky Joe's Playhouse improvement videos. That's what we'll call them. Unky Joe's Playhouse improvement videos. We have another one coming up that deals with inside of Unky Joe's Playhouse, and that humming and whining noise that all of you have grown to love over the past 2 or 3 years, but it just frankly annoys the crap out of me. We're going to take care of that too, but we'll save that for another video. So anyway, thanks again for coming to see us. If you're so inclined to donate, we take PayPal, Patreon. Leave your comments down in the comments section. I always look forward to those. Please come back and see us again, and don't forget that we will see you on the other side.